That tree stump really tied the room together, did it not? Yeah, and he stole it. Donnie, please. You're out of your element. It's been all day. I just got done a little out of breath. I just finished cooking all day. I cooked a second ham, or cut it and put it in a Ziploc bag with other goodies. Basted it a little bit and soaked it in the goodies. But that tree stump really tied the room together, did it not? And he stole it. Donnie, please. That's a parody of The Big Lebowski. He said, that rug really tied the room together. And he peed on it. So I just jacked this from the penthouse. I suspect they'll be back for it. There's several. There was three, so I figured, and it's in a room no one uses. All the flat screens in there work except for one room. No one goes in that room. And they had three. I figured I need a coffee table or a place to set my feet. I went for the biggest one, and I threw my big Hugo Boss jacket over it because they have cameras up there. So it looked like I was carrying a giant tree stump inside of a big, heavy parka. The one I wanted, I bend over to pick it up. I'm like, it's freaking heavy. This thing's heavy. You know why? I thought it was made out of plastic or something. This is full-blown tree stump. Excuse me. That's a tree. And anyway, at the very least, it's Sunday night. I figured it's the lowest probability to cry about it. If it walks off on a Sunday night. But the point is that I'll return it at some point. But just while I'm in transition, getting my goodies going and finding furniture, I just have to have a place to put my feet in. I thought it'd be a good springboard for a conversation about why don't women shine anymore? That's the hardest work in the world. So there's some value in hearing a naive person speak on a subject. I'm naive about what goes on in a kitchen. But here I am practicing, right? So my first thoughts are women work very, very, very hard, but it's incredibly rewarding because the work is very practical. Men go off to jobs, at least the jobs that I'm used to. I very much admire blue-collar workers. I just really do. Oftentimes, white-collar workers, as they say in people in finance, you guys push around little bits of paper for no social purpose. Toot toot. Put that up there. And I'm still not exactly sure why. That's the thing. I just need a little placeholder, and I need to steal a tree stump. But I guess it kind of wanted to maybe talk. It's Sunday night before Christmas, and that whooped my ass in the kitchen again. It just did it again, man. It whooped my ass. And so when I was working, some of the thoughts that came, it's my second turkey or my second pig. Why aren't they given the opportunity to shine anymore, you know? And I to be honest with you, the first thought that came to mind is well, there you go. No, that's a better answer. I've not been given the occasion. Maybe there's a lot, and that's why I say I really admire small middle America families that are not caught up in this horse shit, empire. Just regular douchebags. Enjoy the passage of time. Take their daily bread and enjoy the passage of time and do their chores. That's it. You're gonna have trouble if you guys do the right thing by the South Side and make them a village, and you pour a bunch of money doesn't help diddly shit anymore. You guys are pouring tons of cash into the Southeast and ain't nothing happening. It's actually worse. The problem's worse. Because then they're given the misguided thought that there's help here, when in fact you're harming them. My point is, there's a great deal of pleasure, the business of living and preparing for your day and preparing for life, which is labor. That is the pleasure. My point is, let's say you get wild and you dump not just, $5 billion into a village there on Eastern Potomac Park, but you do the right thing, you pray to Mother Mary, you get the blessing from the Lord, and you build a badass village there. Some of the troubles you're going to run into, and you take Anacostia, people, it's 40% poverty rate over there, and you do a little raffle, I don't know, you figured this shit out on your own, but, obviously people that have been in Anacostia, people that are from Anacostia, so forth. You got children enrolled in school 5 years before we come up with this idea, or something like, whatever the criteria is, then you raffle it off, and all right, you're now a homeowner in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condo on Eastern Potomac Park, right? That comes with problems. Some of the problems are handing keys to a car or keys to a house that they haven't worked for. They're not going to love it the same. They're not going to treat it the same. They're not going to husband their new possessions the way other chumps might that have worked for it their entire lives. It's going to be abused. It's going to be, you're going to be shocked at the recidivism rate. The people just, fuck it. I'm going to go back to the fucking street. You're going to be shocked. But you own this house. It's in your fucking name, the title. Okay, who can I sell it to and get the 200 grand out and I'll be broke in 6 months? We created this problem. Yeah? So that's what I'm saying. You have to husband these byproducts that happen, right? But some of the things that came to mind, I was like, why aren't, and I imagine there are, like I said, I really admire Humpty Dumpty and his wife on the middle America. That they don't really put much thought into shit. They just go to church. They send their kids to school. Maybe read the kids a book. I really admire that shit. Like I said, I don't know. Yeah, there's something, I don't know, there's some mediocrity there too, I think, that needs to be cured, but I don't know. But the first thing that came to mind was, I'm like, the architecture of our society is like the automobile. Sort of like it's like a country that's like got themselves into like a masturbatory thing. The whole act is a real jerk-off act. And it's sort of like, just thinking about it through, it's like, in the cradle of civilization out there in the Middle East, in the Fertile Crescent and so forth, they call it, it used to be like like this horrifying crime if you had a traveler stop at your house and you didn't have bread and water, and you couldn't, they couldn't be refreshed at your home, And I think, when you have the villages and you had community would be, pre-industrial age. I'm just guessing. I don't know. Like, this is naivete. Somebody probably has way better answers on this than I do. I'm a beginner. I just started cooking for the first time in a long time. Many years ago when I had that house back at the, I did some baking and shit. But I don't feed myself well. But my guess is, I don't know, is this was this is the woman's place to shine. I think somebody, a Christian, maybe his name's Eldridge, I'm not sure. I think he wrote a book called Captivating, a woman wants to be captivating. I'd be careful with some of that. I don't have a problem with women being captivating, It's like, in which ways do you want to be captivating, right? holy living and entering into having a Christ, they say a child-centered home is a Christ-centered home, and concentrating on the child. I think it's like it really helps with this. You're trying the home and the symbols that are created. You got to examine these symbols. A husband, wife, children, home, village, community. What are these symbols? What's trying to happen here? And I think your family is supposed to be a symbiotic organism, where they're all, and there's not just a symbiosis between all the moving parts within that family, but I would imagine that when they're working well, they synergize on, I know that my husband, we're working on building this home or whatever. I know that it's very important to him he's dying to find the right thing for that little shed in the back where he can do his little, whatever. So next time I go to market, I'll ask that, the cobbler, if he's come across anything where, there's a symbiosis that synergizes. And, but the automobile, it used to be like welcoming somebody into your home. Well, what's the first thing that happens? Well, you're in from out of the elements, and that's a symbol. You're welcome into our home. It's warm. You're sheltered from the. We have hot tea. Would you prefer hot tea, hot coffee? And what kind of biscuits and cookies would you prefer? And and then you trade your troubles. These are my troubles that I'm going through, and these are the things I'm happy about. And we'll keep that in mind. We'll pray for you. And I'm so sorry to hear about that troubles about I know your family, your sister is sick or whatever it is. And if I come across that, in fact, I think I have some in my my medicine cabinet. Try this but you introduce an automobile, and this is where masturbation just really begins to take off. And there's nothing as quite American as like the open road. I think it was Voltaire says the soul loves movement. Just the feeling of escaping your problems. You ever got on a plane? Just feels to get good to get the hump out of town, right? My family, we come from, we've had many businesses. One was the least reputable, perhaps. Well, not least reputable. I just mean, I'm just not. I don't like the whole car business thing. There was some good value in what my family was doing. I think when we were buying cars from the federal government at auction. That I liked because then you could pass. We were buying them. This is no shit. Before the market was informed, like 2004, 2005, we're buying it back. $5,000 back a book. That's unheard of. It's unheard of. So in this way, you can provide a service to your neighbor by going, look, I'll split the difference with you. I'll sell it to you $2,500 back. And I make $2,500 and you know what I mean? That's a service to your neighbor. The car business in the other ways, it's douchebaggery. I mean, to be very, very fucking nice. And we have a lot of car guys, friends and family. It's, if you're trying to help the fucking people and you have information about the cars, you have information about solving transportation problems, you might tell somebody, look, this is going to fuck you up. I've seen a lot of, what would be wrong with just getting a bus pass and doing this? There are some car guys I think are like that, but it's rare. So some of the cars, so we were buying federal and municipal automobiles. That's why I know these fucking cars in and out. We were tearing them five back. It's just unheard of. That's a service to your neighbor. But my point is, this is where that's in the car lot, and they say when you send them out to a car on a car test drive. This is where they said this is where they mentally masturbate. You kind of just shut your mouth and let them do. They're just in their head as they're driving the damn thing. They do all the work themselves. They're selling it to themselves. And they call it, this is where they mentally masturbate. Keep your mouth shut. It almost always works no matter what kind of car it is. You know why? Because it drives different than the one they fucking have. Despite the fact that you know this thing's a fucking turd. But it always is different than the one they have. And so they go for it almost every fucking time. It's different than the one they have. Anyway. The point is that the concept of that really destroys what happens inside of a home. You come into a home for the warmth, right? And I'm so sorry, I still don't have anything up on the, on the walls. I'm just trying to make it a home and so forth. But I just mean, I'm sorry, you have to stare at this blank wall. I did bring this along for a time. So but anyway, the point, I thought this would be nice because it's like, look at the return to, it's in a penthouse. And here we are. It's heavy, you guys. It was a bear to get it down here. But here you are returning to, now it's avant-garde and kind of cool to have building products that the Lord provided in your penthouse. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, gone are the days where you're a traveler from a weary land or whatever. You're coming from community to community and you stop in. Needing each other creates the symbiosis. We are, human beings are radically dependent. Honestly, dude, it is like a humiliating act for me and it's beautiful to sit on the toilet. Everybody, you do it, I do it, we all. It's humiliating. You go poo out of your bottom. It's fucking weird. You're forced every 4 hours to come sit down. It's all this stuff I need. The man sleeps supposed to sleep 30% of his life. These are very, very dependent qualities. And angels, they're so well endowed, it's absurd. We are geared for lowliness. And in that is the beauty. What we've done is sort of with this, fiber optically connected, all your eager impulses, you created a supernatural world in which you're not meant to be a part of. Right out of the gate, when Jesus was crucified, the devil's response was to viciously attack the church. He used Rome if you're a Christian, you had to bend a knee to their God, and they would give you a paperwork that you were witnessed by a soldier. Everybody had to do it, at certain times. And at that point you could, use the court system. You were a citizen. It confirmed your citizenship. I'm sorry, I got lost where I was. It's too many digressions, or it's too late. I don't know. What was I saying? Rome. Oh, thank you. The devil's response right out of the gate. This is serious right here. If you want, we were like, okay, can we get to something? Here we go. Right out of the gate, the devil's response was to thrash. He created martyrs. He used Rome to kill Christians. And in the Romans, it made no sense to them. Seriously, here it is. The emperor hears what? Their religion, this little cult coming out of Judea, coming out of Israel, little Judea. What is it now? What do they do? They eat the body and the blood of their Savior, their God. Which God is this? They believe that this man from Palestine was the Messiah that the Jews have been, and they're called Christians, I think. And this is the thing: they believe the Jews killed him, but they have this belief that when he died, the blood, they believe that after 3 days he rose again. Which I'm sure you've heard about that. You remember that like several years ago? Yeah, of course, everyone heard about that. It was well known. Okay, this is the thing. Apparently, they say he went back to heaven, and they pass out wine and bread, and their priests will bless it, and they say that is the blood. So they drink theoretically what they're doing. They drink the blood and eat the flesh of their Savior, and this keeps this keeps them in communion with their God. It's a part of their practice and in their church. And it was one of the few things that just made no sense. It was like one more reason to not like this little cult that actually I think it was catching fire quite substantially with the Apostle Paul hitting the road like he did Paul and Barnabas and so forth, and Peter, I think, out in Rome. But the devil, right out of the gate, his response was attack the church, attack this, and so before long they would crucify him, and they'd take him to the Colosseum, and they would put him on crosses, and then they'd soak him in like kerosene and light him on fire. So those were the street torches, were Christians. It was known if you're a Christian. This is what the devil helped arrange. There was one where, you sit down in the toilet and poop comes out your bottom. You got a little butthole. They had one piece of wood that was sharpened, and they set you on top of there, and they try to get it right up your little butthole there, and it'd be sharpened, and they just keep you up there, and slowly you're supposed to slide down, and it would kill you like that. They had somewhere, they would soak leather. They would soak leather, wrap you in that soaked leather, tie it super tight, knot it really good, set you out in the desert, and the leather would dry. And as the leather dried, it would choke you out. They had a variety of different ways. The one that was most horrifying, and the one that I can compare, caught in the mirror, picking my fanny. Did you see that? God, picking my fanny. I'm so sorry. Is the brazen bull. Check that. The bronze bull. So it was an emperor. He had a bronze bull made. He goes inside the bull. The idea was to I really wanted to talk about, I think when you talk about the splintering of family and community in the Industrial Revolution, everyone kind of already knows that. We already know we've done that, but it's just, it bears repeating that, it's no fun now. It's no longer fun to go. You no longer need. As I said, need creates community. You need your mother. You need your father. Excuse me. Neighbors need each other. The fact that you need. Hey, I was building this thing. I ran out of nails. Do you have any left? This and that. The fact that you no longer need anybody is. You no longer need to get warm. You drive a Lexus, man. It's no fun to go in here and listen to this lady's problems because you need to warm up to get some tea or something. But to talk about the splintering of community and family and society as a result of the Industrial Revolution, I think everyone already kind of knows that, right? So maybe we can just... Anyway, the bronze bull, I'm really embarrassed. I think you guys caught me like picking my fanny right there. How embarrassing. I'm so sorry. Anyway, the bronze bull. So if you're, if an emperor or a leader and you want to scare the shit out of, and that's part of what was crucifixion, is you don't want to end up like this guy. And the word is around the street, well, what'd he do? And they tell you what he did. Well, you sure as shit ain't going to do, you're going to think twice you ever do that again, right? Here's this guy. That's what happened to him, right? It helps check society, course corrections, and it's a warning to others. But the most... in my view, one of the most extraordinary ones was the bronze bull. There's a bull made of bronze, and so it had a cavity inside. You put him up the arse. You put a human being up in the arse. You set a fire. You put kindling in wood, and you set fire up, and the bronze bull heats up. And so it cooks you to death. What's what's trick about the bronze bull? It had an instrument inside it, and it had in its throat was an instrument, and coming out of the mouth of the bull was the part of the horn. So you couldn't see it, but eventually you heat him up. So you get him inside. It's a death sentence, right? You get him inside, you light the fire. Eventually the bull gets so hot. Excuse me. You cannot help it. You're going to scream, and you're going to be desperate for oxygen. Heat and fire depletes oxygen. So eventually, once you're in the death throes, you go up and you put your mouth on the instrument that has oxygen here, and you suck and scream at the same time. And it would make a noise. It would make music, the most horrifying music you ever heard in your fucking life. When I think about what happened to me and what I did, I think of the bronze bull. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. I felt trapped in every conceivable way. I had no more outs. If I had known how to give up, I mean, I don't really surrender, but had I known another way, I'd have done it. I just didn't. I really, And you were outclassed in the extreme. It was just no. I found like an outlet. I found an outlet on the phone to send text messages. And that night when I hit that crystal meth, that was what they'd been waiting for. And that's me, dying. That's me dying. And in fact, the guy who made it, the artisan, the craftsman that made the bronze bull, they had talked about it. This is what I need. It was an emperor, and I can't remember his name. It's in history, just look it up. But he says, it's an unbelievably evil contraption. But he's done making it. And the words we have in history, and this is nearly 2,500 years ago, something like that. So we're not sure exactly what he said to the emperor, but he's done with it. He's very proud of it. And I think it's likely, historians suspect he was likely in an underhanded way asking for a tip or something. I think that's probable. And I think the emperor did not like that. Don't you kiss my ass. I think it's also probable he didn't want to pay. He was probably looking for a reason to be pissed. That's what I think. So he finishes the bull, finished making this bull, and he tells him, he says, I'm so proud of this thing. He says, I believe it is going to create some of the most pathetic notes you've ever heard in your life. He looks at him, he goes, what? He goes, this is going to be so awesome. I think it's going to create some of the most pathetic notes you've ever dreamed of. He says, throw him in right here. No. What did he say? He says, can you go? He gets him to go in. He says, can you show it to me? Yeah, I think that might have been what it was. Can you show it to me up? He said, yeah. So anyway, he gets in there. He goes, close it. He sets him on fire. I think maybe the guy was asking it was an underhanded way to ask for a tip. But I think also the emperor was probably already looking for a reason to get out of fucking paying for it. And it's clear if you have this thing made, you're looking to join the I'm not fucking around club anymore. Right? Yeah. So at any rate, he immediately, I'm not sure, I cannot remember that part of the story exactly if he immediately says, throw him in, or if he says, can you just show it to me then? He gets him in and then they close it. At any rate, he's immediately thrown in and set on fire. I promise you, this is how I feel about what had happened to me. And it's being an admirer of strategy and tactics in war, absolutely, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. The sophistication of it. Yeah. We can do more detail later or something. I kind of want to keep it real broad right now, but I got bronze bold. Yeah, you're hearing. Yeah, if you see those text messages, I assure you, and I think you would easily agree, those are the most pathetic notes you ever heard in your fucking life. But the larger point here was when Christ first appeared, the church, the devil's response was immediately, we will crush the church. You said he's got it to where now you set fire, you crucified Christians, and now they light. You set them on fire, they now light the pathway onto the Colosseum. It's known if you're a Christian, we'll set you on this thing, it'll split you up the middle, right up the ass. Real sadistic stuff. Now, the devil has changed strategies. It's completely different. It's completely different. Starting on or around the time of the witch trials, I believe that really that will, and the historians say we cannot figure out why it's not really apparent to us why they started and why they stopped. And it's my opinion after seeing this world like I've seen it, it was just a part of this strategy to, let's put that to bed forever. Let's really scale back on this whole superstitious stuff. And we're going with, and so what's happening here, instead of crushing the church, we'll prosper them into hell. Everyone agrees. Atheists, agnostics, Christians, historians, everyone agrees it backfired on the devil. Crucifying Christians, they call it like this: the blood of the martyrs. It was the seeds of the church. It was the opposite thing. It inspired Christians. They saw true conviction. They saw true beauty, like, this person's really dying for this thing, right? And so Christianity exploded till eventually Constantine, the emperor, adopts it as the church. And at that time, sin was so, that's how far we've come with the changing of the, attitudes and mores, the social mores. It was known, after you're baptized, you don't sin. You sin no more. That's what Jesus said. Go and sin no more. In the Old Testament, be holy for your Father in heaven is holy. Everyone has completely jacked up Paul's teachings. And you see back then him having to correct idiots at that time too. There are several markers in there saying, no, you totally misunderstand. You see that in there. And the church now, like the Scofield, which I read, this is a Scofield. He says, James is not a response to Paul. James is a response to Paul. James says, without works, the faith is whatever. He said, and I don't think he was telling Paul he's wrong. I think he was telling people that were following Paul in this jacked up pre-American way. You're getting it wrong. You're like, James is like, yeah, James the Just, is that his name? He said he had knees like camels. He's always on his knees praying. I can't think of a better life, to be honest with you. But he's all about, you have to be holy for your God, your Father in heaven is holy. Go and sin no more. And right now in this American junt, they say, you don't misunderstand James because he's completely opposite of the way we're currently interpreting Paul. They're saying, don't be misled by James. Be misled by James. So it's a new strategy from the devil, in my view, where he used to crush the church and it backfired. Now it's, buddy, they'll do anything to, if they win your soul, they'll do anything. They'll serve you. They'll put you in charge. You're the master. You're the master, and you're the commander. You know, like they say in The Devil's Advocate, every eager impulse fiber optically connected. Well, why would you stop in and have tea with the neighbor? You no longer need the neighbor, especially when you got a computer. You can dial up. What is it this week? Is it a blonde, brunette, redhead? Redhead with some kink. Everything's like on a menu now, right? Anyway, my point is the strategy. I don't know, where do I go from there? I forget what I was kind of saying. Was the strategy, the devil's strategy has changed. So now you have a society where it's he's prospering you into hell as opposed to chopping you up and sending you to heaven, Why do I suddenly feel a pause or a blank here? Why am I suddenly... Can you help me out? I just went flat, or you just went flat, or we both just went flat? What? Well, praise the Lord. Times they are a-changing.